Happy Tuesday, ladies. It's lovely to see everybody out there tonight on Training Tuesday. So, here's what I want to ask you. Are you really showing up? And by that I mean, are you actually letting people see you for who you are? Are you letting people see how thoughtful you are? How smart you are? How creative you are? How funny you are? If you're listening to that list and thinking, those things aren't me, then you have been hiding for so long that you now believe those things about you. But they're not true. When we hide, we put on a mask, and it's a mask that's safe. But that safe mask prevents us from stepping out and stepping up into who we really are, saying what we really think, sharing what we really believe, and truthfully, being who we want to be. My name is Natalie Hahn. For those of you who are new to the group, welcome to Training Tuesday. I am the CEO of Dirty Girls Consulting, and you are part of Accelerating Leadership for Professional Women. And I am thrilled to have you guys here tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about hiding and all the ways that we hide. And there's a lot of different ways that we hide. I'm going to talk about a handful of them tonight because that's what we have time for. And I'm sure as I go through some of these, you're going to think of other ways that I didn't mention that you are probably hiding. And by hiding, I don't mean it's not hide and seek, not quite so much, but it can feel that way. And some of it is intentional. Some of these things we do on purpose, and some of them we don't even realize that we're doing. And it keeps us small and safe. So for me, it took me until I was probably 40 to openly acknowledge where I went to school, which sounds a little bit ridiculous, right? But whenever I had to utter the phrase or heard someone else utter the phrase that I went to Harvard, I would cringe. I would cringe and I would get this immediate icky feeling because saying the words, I went to Harvard, meant maybe I was bragging, I was going to get judged, I was going to get put in that category of those people who go to Ivy League schools. People were going to make all sorts of assumptions about me and who I was and what my background was and what I was like, all based on that one small sentence. And so I didn't want it out there. And when somebody else introduced me as somebody who was at or went to Harvard, I would immediately deflect. It's not a big deal. And I would change the subject. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about what you studied. Let's talk about where you went to school. Let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about anything else other than this one piece of information, which I thought was it just carried so much judgment with it. And I did not want that judgment applied to me. And so I avoided it until I was 40. So a full 15 years after, no, more than 15 years, 18 years after I got out of that school, I was finally starting to get comfortable with acknowledging this is part of who I am, part of my background, part of my history. And when you think about that phrase, I went to Harvard, there's no judgment in that. It's just a fact. It's another fact that goes on a line on my resume. It was me putting the judgment on it. It was me putting my fear all over it in terms of what would people think and what would they say and what would that mean about me, that they had these thoughts and opinions about me based on that one line in my resume. So I myself was minimizing myself, keeping myself small, and hiding from a fact of my own past. And by the way, a fact that was a conscious choice that I made, and still I was hiding from it. So when you think about the ways that we hide, and I just listed, I think three ways that I hid, it all came from me not being comfortable with myself. I didn't share the information, so I didn't share any information about myself. I felt icky when I was asked about it, so I didn't talk about it. I deflected. I made the topic to be about someone else or about something else. I wasn't sharing any part of me that might let people judge me. When you think about those, I guess, two forms of hiding, right? Deflecting, changing the topic. Sharing the glory is another form of deflecting. Oh, it wasn't me, it was a team effort. Oh, I just got lucky. I said that a lot actually about, oh, you got to Harvard, you're very fortunate. Yes, I was lucky. And then I let it go. When we deflect that way, we minimize what we bring to the table. We minimize our own experience. We minimize our contribution. Somebody says, hey, you did a fabulous job with that. It was a team effort. Was it? I mean, genuinely, if it was a team effort, sure, you could say that. But a lot of the times we say that when it wasn't a team effort, when it was really just us. And we still are uncomfortable accepting the credit, or we don't even acknowledge that we did something valuable at all. We don't even, oh, that was a wonderful thing. Yeah, it was no big deal. These are all ways that we minimize what we do. Another way that we hide that I was using was by not sharing my story, by not sharing a piece of myself, by not allowing anyone else to have something personal from me that they could connect to. And when you think about that, it's our stories that create connection with other people. It's our experiences. It's our reflections on those experiences. It's our self-awareness about those experiences that allow us to form bonds with other people where we go, oh yeah, you and I share the same values. Oh, you and I have had the same experience. We have something in common here. When we don't share our story, we don't allow that type of connection to happen. And that one sentence, it's just one part of my story. So by shutting that down, I was shutting down, opening the door. Well, how did you get to Harvard? Where were you before that? Where did you go after that? I was shutting it all down so that people couldn't connect with me. All they would get was whatever they saw at the party when somebody introduced me, because I didn't want the judgment. We hide for fear of judgment. We hide for fear of being wrong, right? We don't venture an opinion or share an idea because heaven forbid it be wrong. We hide for fear of embarrassment or shame, that something might come out and that we might be imperfect. And we're afraid of getting judged for that. And it's all normal, by the way. Everything that we do around hiding is part of years and years of conditioning. And it's the way we've been taught to communicate. It's the way we've been taught to think. It's the way we've been trained through school and even through our early years in our career, right? Don't stand out too much. Don't be too loud. Don't be too direct. Too direct often turns into too intense. And I've talked about intensity before, right? As being a slur word. So we've been molded our entire lives to hide. Some other ways that you might be hiding would include becoming an expert. I talk about this a lot in my master classes. When we get so focused on becoming an expert in our field, an expert in a particular category, the goodness of that, right, is we want to be good at something. We want to prove our value. We want to get really good at it. And that shows how smart we are, how capable we are, right? We get rewarded for that. And that's goodness. However, becoming the expert also means we've put ourselves in a silo. And by putting ourselves in that silo, we don't open the doors to be known for anything else. We don't take the risk of trying something new that we are not expert at, because we don't like that feeling of not being the expert. We don't like the potential of being judged for not being good at something. We might get laughed at. We might just be judged as not being as smart as we thought we were, or as smart as other people thought we were. And so we stay away from it. When we become the expert, while we're good at that one thing, we have created our own little bubble in which we are hiding behind our expertise. And then we are very reluctant to step out and go on that adventure, go for that new job, try that new thing, develop that new skill, because we don't want to start from scratch again. Another way that we can hide is by putting more criteria in front of us. And by that, usually it's more education. I can't do that till I get the certificate. I couldn't apply for that job. I don't have that kind of degree. Once I get through this course and that course, then I can probably apply for that job. We put education in front of us as a barrier to entry. And we put it in front of us in careers where there isn't that kind of barrier to entry. So I want to acknowledge, definitely, there are definitely jobs out there that you require a specific certification and a specific degree in order to have that position. I get that. However, the majority of jobs in the universe, the majority of jobs that we are going after, do not require that specific degree, that specific education, that certification. And even if they do, in some of them, depending on what they are, there's some flexibility around when you get that education. But we use education as a way to stop ourselves, say, I can't go after that. I don't have the credentials. I have to do another year of schooling. I have to do 2 more years of schooling. And it's not just schooling. Think about it. We do things like we deflect our own pleasure. We hide from our own pleasure. We will say, I had a friend say something to me once about wanting to take a trip to Italy, wanting desperately to go to Italy, but wouldn't go until she learned the language. Wanted to go to Italy and be fluent enough to get around and be comfortable and not have to rely on a dictionary, not have to rely on a translator or somebody else to show her around. Well, how badly did she want to go to Italy? Because she spent 2 years in and out of Italian language classes, kind of sort of learning the language, but never really focusing on it. And never getting to Italy. That's a way of hiding. We put education in front of us as the barrier to entry when the barrier doesn't exist. Millions of people every year were going to Italy not speaking the language, and they managed to get by and have a fabulous vacation. Plenty of people go ahead and apply for that job even if they don't have the exact credentials that are in the job description. Why? Because the job description is nothing more than a dating profile. You put in there everything you wished you had, everything you wished you could get. That's what companies do. It's their wish list of the best candidate. It's not necessarily reality. And just like on a dating profile, you might swipe right anyway and submit your resume and see what happens. See if there's flexibility around that credential or that education. See if maybe your own experience tops the actual degree that's necessary to qualify for that role. We discount our own experience so much that we think we actually have the certification when actually we've already got 5 years experience in that area. A certification would be meaningless to us and it would bore us to go get it. So putting education or some other qualifying criteria in front of us is one of the ways that we hide. It prevents us from stepping out, from being who we want to be and doing what we want to do, because we got to get that other thing first. This is related to another way that we hide. We will start something. So we'll say you have this grand idea for, you want to write a blog. You've always wanted to write a blog. It's a creative outlet for you. You have some thoughts around a particular topic you want to share. So you're like, I'm going to write a blog. And as you start thinking about writing the blog, you're first getting hung up on that. I got to write the blog. What am I going to actually say? What am I going to talk about? Am I qualified to do this? I don't know if I'm qualified to do this, right? You've got that voice going on in your head, which is shortly followed by, oh, well, if I need a blog, I need a place to post it. So I better go get that, which means I need a URL. What URL am I going to get? I better go get that. And now I've got to get that. I need a name for my blog. If I need a name for my blog, I probably need to get a logo. If I'm going to get a logo, I need colors. So that's got to be designed because I want it to look good. I can't put it out there if it doesn't look good. Who's going to read that? You start stacking up all these other things, and we overcomplicate the process. We overcomplicate it. Because what do you really need to write a blog? You need to write it. And then you need to post it. And there are plenty of places you can post a blog without actually creating your own platform and your own URL. And if you wanted your own platform and URL, I could show you how to do that in 10 minutes. And then you'd still write your blog. Because the important thing about what you're trying to do, is it the color scheme? Is it the way your logo's designed? Is it the fact that you have a really cool special URL or name of your blog? No, none of that matters. The important thing is getting it out. We overcomplicate things by creating a much bigger process than is necessary to get the job done, to actually stand up and step out in our power, to stand out and step out in what we believe in, to share our opinions and share our thoughts. Because if it's not perfect, it might get judged. And perfectionism is a big blocker that we use. It's a big blocker. So we overcomplicate the process, and then our perfectionism voice comes in and says, well, it's a complicated process and I can't put it out till it's perfect. So what happens? We do nothing. We're paralyzed. Paralyzed, and we do nothing. So instead, the blog doesn't get written. There is no sharing of your opinion and your ideas. There's no sharing of your voice. There's no connecting with other people about a topic that you're passionate about, and you stay stuck. So those were several right there, actually, that I just walked through, right? That one, overcomplicating the process, perfectionism, staying in a silo, using education as a blocker, not sharing part of yourself, deflecting, hiding from feedback, hiding from praise, hiding just from your own value and credentials. These are all ways that we hide. And again, some of it is conscious, some of it is purposeful, but some of it isn't. Some of it is habit. I'm willing to bet that most of the time when someone says to you, oh, you did a fantastic job, and you shrug and go, I was lucky. I bet a lot of that is just impulse reaction. It's automatic. You don't even think about it. But it's also not true. And it's also part of what keeps us small. Why? Because while these things are habit for us, and in our heads, we're like, oh yeah, I totally killed that. But because we don't acknowledge it and we don't share the joy, the pleasure, the value, the impact that we made with others around us, the perception that we're giving other people is, yeah, it really wasn't that important. They're not reading our minds. They're not, oh, she's just humble. Maybe once or twice they'll say that, but over time with repetition, they're going to believe you. Oh no, she's right. It's not important. It's not that big a deal. It's not important to her, so it must not be important. We do not speak up and own what we want. We do not speak up and own what we desire. And what happens is it becomes another form of hiding. So instead of speaking up and asking for what we want, we wait for recognition. When we're waiting for recognition, it means we're waiting for somebody else to see the value of what we've done, to see the impact, and to reward us for it. You can do that, but you're at risk for never being recognized for what you've done because you're assuming that the value of what you've done is easily seen by everyone around you, and it's not. Everybody else is so focused on what they're doing and their own value and their own contribution and their world, they're really not looking at what you're doing through the lens of what impact did that have. Most of them are not. So you could be waiting a long time for recognition that doesn't come, or a recognition that comes slowly or isn't as big as that you expected, doesn't match the impact of what you actually did. The second piece of waiting for recognition as a way to hide is sometimes you'll get the recognition, but you won't get what you want from it. So let's say you did this fantastic project at work, and in doing this project, you know it was high value, you know it was high impact, you know that all of the big brass were watching, and you're thinking, easy, this is easy peasy for the promotion next month. Does anybody know you want that promotion? Does anybody know you want a raise? Is anybody aware that this was part of your plan to prove that you were the natural next in line for that next position that's open? Because if they don't, if you've been waiting all along for people to recognize your talent, to recognize your value, and simply offer you, right, a red carpet up that corporate ladder, what you could get is recognition and a round of applause for the work that you did, pat on the back, maybe a plaque to hang on your wall or put on your desk. That could be it. That could be the recognition you get. When we don't own what we want, and when we hide behind waiting for somebody else to reward us, then we're going to get whatever reward they deem appropriate for the value of the work that we did. We're not promoting our own value. We're not stepping into the light. We're not letting people see us for who we are and for how much we deliver. So we get the equal value of what somebody else perceives our value and impact is. And that's not their fault. They're going based on what they see with their limited attention in the limited time that they actually paid attention to us. That's our fault for not making sure we were widely seen, widely recognized for the contribution and the impact. That's on us. So quickly, the ways that we hide, the staying in the silo, becoming an expert, the trying to use more education. I can't do that until I get that degree. The overcomplicating of a process because we're so focused on being perfect, we're not focused on the priority. The not sharing of ourselves, the deflecting of our contribution, of compliments, or of our value, or of our credentials. Perfectionism is another way. Waiting for recognition. And the last one, collecting research. We will spend so much time. So let's say you're writing that blog, but because the purpose of the blog was for you to share your experience, you're like, okay, I'm going to do that. But before I do that, I'm going to go out to these 10 other sites and I'm going to look at what these 10 other people wrote on this topic so that I have expert opinions in my blog. What makes their expert opinion any more expert than yours? We can waste hours collecting data, collecting information, trying to figure out like who's got the smart idea that I can incorporate instead of relying on our own smart ideas. Instead of having the confidence that what we know and what we've experienced, it's enough. It's enough to bring to the table. It's enough to connect with other people. It's enough to step up and into your own power. It's enough for you to lead with intention by just showing yourself. So how do you move past blocks like this, right? How do we move past this habit that we have, patterns conscious and unconscious of hiding? Well, the first step obviously is recognizing that we're hiding. But the key to this is being comfortable with yourself. Until I could get comfortable with who I was, with what my background was, with what the benefits were of that, with what the hardships were of that, and with what my full story was, until I was comfortable with all of that, I had a very hard time sharing my story, which meant sharing a part of myself with other people. And when you think about that and you think about the role I'm in, my whole job in coaching is connecting with you guys. And part of connecting with all of you ambitious women is sharing the fact that I'm an ambitious woman also, and that I've had the pits and the downfalls, that I have a story around being ambitious, around having goals, around not being seen and not being heard, around being a mother and being a single mother, around being divorced. I have all of these stories that a lot of you have similar stories. Our stories may not be the same, but some of our outcomes might be the same. Some of our stories might be the same and some of our outcomes might be different, but we have common ground to relate on. If I don't share that, how can I possibly share with you any support in coaching that's helpful? How do you believe that in me if you don't know what my story is? So getting comfortable with yourself is the journey. If you saw yourself in any one of those ways I described that we hide, the first order of business is start the journey on getting comfortable with yourself, because it is a journey. It's not something, oh, that's all, I need to be comfortable with me. Done. How many times have we thought that and hoped that, and yet still, the gremlins are here and they're here, and it's a journey. It's a journey to unwind those patterns, unwind those thoughts. But that's the journey you have to start. Start the journey of getting comfortable with yourself. As you're on that journey, you will learn to start to push past the fear, because it's fear that keeps us in hiding. As you learn to push past the fear, you're going to tap into your resilience, because you have resilience, because you've always had resilience, or you wouldn't be where you are today. We forget about our resilience. There is not a single woman that I've spoken to, that I have coached with, that I haven't asked, what's the worst that can happen? When they come with a challenge or they come with a problem, the question we always work through is, what's the worst that can happen? Let's play out that scenario to the very end. And every single one of you, invariably, the minute you describe to me the worst that can happen, the very worst thing that can happen, there's a short pause, and it's immediately followed up with, but you know, then I could. You already have a backup plan. You already know that the worst that can happen, and you will go on. There's something else you're going to do next. There's some way that you are going to recuperate or recover from this failure. There is some way you're still going to move forward after you pick yourself up and dust yourself off. You already know this. We know it logically, but until we tap into it here, until we truly believe in our hearts, in our resilience, and the fact that we're still here today, so clearly we've made it. We've survived every bad day so far, right? I think that's what the idiom is. Until you believe that here, you're going to keep hiding behind your fear. So as you get comfortable with yourself, push past your fear, tap into your resilience, and remind yourself, what's the worst that can happen? And oh yeah, then here's what I'm going to do next. And guess what? The what I'm going to do next is a manageable plan. It may not be my ideal plan. It may not be what I hoped for or the best case scenario, but it's doable. But I will survive. That whole cycle, the third thing you do, practice. Because the first time you break some habitual cycle, the first time that you step out and you start sharing a piece of yourself, or you don't wait for it to be perfect and you put it out there already, or you don't overcomplicate the process and you just get it done. The first time you break that cycle, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to swear you're going to do this every time. And then I guarantee you sometime in the next 30 to 60 days, you're going to fall back in an old pattern again. Because that's what we do with habits. It takes more than once to break it. It takes more than a minute to get comfortable with yourself. It certainly takes more than a minute to work through fear, to tap into resilience. But when we practice it over and over, and we keep pushing ourselves, and we keep putting ourselves out there, funny thing, we actually start to get comfortable with it. We get comfortable being out there. We get comfortable with the idea that we can survive failure. We get comfortable with letting the world see us for who we are, for how funny you are, for how thoughtful you are, for how smart you are, for how creative you are, for all the gifts that you have. Once you start practicing, it becomes so much easier on that journey of self-acceptance and self-awareness. And that is what I want for you, to keep practicing. So thank you for joining me tonight. It's Training Tuesday. We've been talking about hiding and how maybe not to hide anymore. I gave you a whole plethora of ways that we hide. So like I said, if any one of those resonate with you, I want you to think about what you need to do to get comfortable with yourself, because that is the overarching journey you have to start. That's going to help you push past the fear. It's going to help you tap into your resilience, and it's going to help you keep going, to keep practicing over and over. Have a fabulous Tuesday night, ladies, and thank you for joining me.